Friday. Happy morning huddle inside the Women Who Soar group. Morning huddles are back. This is my first week back doing morning huddles, and I'm just going to take a peek and make sure that I can find me. Yep, there I am. Okay, so if you're coming in live, come and say hi. It's always welcomed to see some friendly faces and see who's in the live. If you are listening to the replay, I also appreciate hashtag replay, so I know who also took some time to listen to the replay. So yeah, good morning. Hello. Morning huddles all week this week were a lot of fun. Kicked it off with morning routine. And the morning routine and why it's so important to have a morning routine and how it's a place and a time and an area where you can center yourself and get yourself out of the way. What I find is when I start my mornings really busy and immediately thinking about all the things I have to do, morning, then I end up being in the way all day, and I try to fix and I try to manage and I try to control so things around me are manageable, and really what ends up happening is they become super unmanageable. So how do you start your mornings? I would love to hear how you start your mornings in the chat. So what do you do in the morning? How are you starting the mornings? And if you want to change your morning, what's stopping you from changing your morning? What's in the way from you changing your morning? And then on Tuesday, I have to remember what we talked about all week, but I know through the week, one of the days we talked about pricing, and how interesting that topic is. We all have different takes on pricing. So one of the things that I'd like to share in regards to pricing this morning, because it just came up, is if you're new in your offer, if you're new in your audience, don't price yourself don't price yourself where you can't go up. Sometimes it's actually, I know this is like against all advice, but sometimes it's actually smart and wise to price yourself low in the beginning for two reasons. One, it gives you morning. Yes. It gives you pricing yourself low in the beginning gives you momentum. I couldn't think of the word. So momentum basically means that you can get yeses easier. And so that doesn't mean that you're lowering your worth. It means that when you're starting out, you need the momentum and you need the yeses. So go ahead and price yourself a little bit lower so you have room to go up, get those yeses out of the gate, and then you can start raising your prices. Oh, hi, Erica. Nice to meet you. Great. So we had pricing for a day. We had how do you start your mornings, which I think I'm going to do that like once a week. Talk about mornings, because so many of us start our mornings with busy. And then what else did we talk about this week? We talked about why it's easier to hire, why marketing is easier than selling. Just like simply, why is marketing easier than selling? And what I shared in a long form, condensing it to short form, is that marketing continues to be behind the scenes. I know that you don't believe me, but it does. Marketing is behind the scenes and sales is right in the front line. And that's why all the years that I was hiring marketing teams and sales teams, it was always so much easier to hire the marketing team than it was the sales team. So it's one of the reasons why I teach sales so much. Whatever word you want to call it, whether it's sales or opportunities or supporting or pitching or launching offers or whatever, at the end of the day, it is how you're getting a consumer or client to buy from you. So that's considered a sale. So that, and then today I had like 3 things popping up in my head. One of them was blind spots. One of them was blind spots. And one of them was prospecting, because so many of us are getting ready to do the 10K in 10 days inside Rachel's group. And then I can't remember the third one. So that one must not be today's. So let's go ahead and just do some prospecting, because it's also been part of hot seat coaching lately. Is, gosh, I'm really not sure what my outreach messaging should look like. So let's go ahead and do that. And it's also, yeah, that totally makes sense, because I also posted this morning, if you are launching a new offer, or if you are part of the 10K in 10 days and you're trying to figure out your messaging for outreach. So whether you're emailing people, whether you're doing direct outreach, whether you're going live, let's talk about what that script looks like. And so there are 6 steps to a prospecting script. And when I say prospecting script, basically what I mean by that is that anytime you're doing any type of outbound messaging to an ideal client, to a ideal partner, this is the guide, this is the script to use. And you can play with it. But here it is. So the very first thing you want to do is you want to know them before you know them. So doing a little bit of research on whoever you're reaching out to. So if I'm reaching out to a I'm trying to think of a target audience. So if my target audience is therapists, let's just say they're therapists. My target audience is therapists. I am going to research those therapists that I'm reaching out to ahead of time, and know a little bit about each and every one of them ahead of time. So that's number one. Doing this off the top of my head. So let's see if I can get through it. So number one is research them before you research them. Number two is to do a very friendly introduction. So if it's a very cold audience and they have no idea who you are, then you definitely want to do an introduction that sounds like, by way of introduction, my name is Dora Rankin. I'm the founder of the Women Who Soar Collective and Gypsy Soul Coaching. Done. That's introduction. But if they already know you, it's just like, hey, Jill, what's up? How are you? So simple introduction. Number 3 and 4 are pretty important. 3 and 4. Number 3 is like, what's the commonality? So figuring out the commonality. If the commonality is really cold and it's just that you're connected on LinkedIn, then that's the commonality. You're connected on LinkedIn. But if you have something in common, you want to bring that to the surface in the beginning, even if it's like, we got our masters together 20 years ago and your name popped up in my mind. But just land on that commonality somewhere. And then number 4 is land on the compliment. So if it is someone you already know, the compliment can be really, really easy, because you already know something about them, and you can say, was really excited to see you just won 40 under 40 in Forbes. But if it's something really cold, you want to pull it to something recent. So it's, you just read an article about them, or you see that you have these people in common, and you love that you just had so-and-so on the podcast that they have, and you just listen to their podcast every morning. Something that's authentic and genuine and real, not salesy, not that word that's out there, salesy, and that's real and authentic and genuine. So commonality, compliment, make the ask. So we've got, you want to research them, you want to do your introduction, you want to find something in common, you want to compliment them, and then you want to tell them why that you're reaching out. So here's what's important before you make the ask. The why you're reaching out isn't because you want to pitch them your offer. The why you're reaching out is because you want to find a time to connect and talk. So when you're reaching out to people to talk about your new offer, you're going to talk about your new offer on a discovery call, on an actual in an actual conversation, versus trying to sell it in the message. And that's where everyone misses the mark. If you're trying to sell it in the message, people lose it's immediately not top of mind after they read your message. It goes away. Like, it's, if it out of sight, out of mind. So the why you're reaching out to them is really around the ask. Like, I'd really like to open up some dialogue again. If it's a catch up, like, I'd really like to see what's going on, what's on the horizon, what your projects and priorities are. I have something coming up as well. I'd really like to share it with you. Got it? And then from there, you make the ask, and that ask is to schedule a call, to schedule a meeting, and make sure that these meetings are not 15 minutes long. You need more time than that to run through a discovery call. You need at least 30 minutes long. And then the last is to close it up. To close it up with a formal a formal close it up. Do not leave it open-ended. If you leave it open-ended and you allow them to make the decision of to when and where and how you're going to meet, it's never going to happen. So especially if you're reaching out to leaders or CEOs or people that are really busy, like all of us. So you want to give them two options. You want to extend your calendar, and you want to give them a date and time. And what that will do is, if they're reading that message and they're attracted to it in any way, and they want to move forward with a meeting with you, they're going to click that link right then and there, or they're going to respond saying this works. If we leave it open-ended and say, let me know if next week works for you, or let me know if you have time over the next few weeks. If we leave it open-ended, then they're going to say, let me get to that later and look at my calendar later, and they never do. Yeah. So inside my free group, inside the Women Who Soar free group, this morning I offered up, if you have a new offer or you are doing the 10K in 10 days and you'd like to figure out some of your prospect messaging and how you're going to be doing outreach, I would be happy to do some editing with you. Another couple of key tricks. Long form is good for social media. Short form is good for outreach. So your scripts on your outreach and your outbound, and how you're trying to get people to set up meetings with you, should be short form. It shouldn't be more than a paragraph or even like 4. Your long form is where you're writing out all your copy for social media and for your newsletters. So just a little tip there, because people won't read it if it's really long. I think I'm out of things to say. It's Friday, and like, my husband would never believe me if I said that to him. I think I'm out of things to say. So let me know if this was helpful today. I will be at the campsite next week camping, but we are going to have morning huddles all week next week as well. And yeah, to everyone that's listening, oh, one more thing. Yes, see, I always have something to say. One more thing, and I was I'm bringing it up because my podcast is, I'm doing some guest podcasting, but I'm doing some very like specific guest podcasting. So if you are an author, or you know anyone that is an author, I am looking for guests that are authors to help them promote their book. And one of the authors that I just had on my podcast, the Women Who Soar podcast, which you can find everywhere, is Samara Bay. And Samara Bay is an author, a best-selling author, who just wrote the book Permission to Speak, which she is a dialect coach turned coach for all, to help people learn how to speak everywhere, speak on stages, and she's going on tour. She's going on tour in 4 different places where she's going to be coaching and giving out her curriculum to people. So check out that podcast to learn more about Samara Bay, permission to speak on my podcast. So I will see everybody next week. And thanks so much for hanging out this morning. Have a blessed day.